Lost growth therapy. Let's talk about the early signs of ADHD and inattentive type that I did not know I had because I didn't get diagnosed with it until I was an adult. So number one, impulsivity, the difficulty of interrupting other people. I would have an answer in class, whether it was right or wrong, didn't really matter to me. It was just a matter of me raising my hand and getting called on to alleviate the anxiety. Number two, I was a huge daydreamer. I would absolutely tap out of a classroom so quickly simply because I found a daydream thread that allowed me to be less anxious, and I was gone. Eventually it became a problem, but over in the beginning when I started doing it, what would happen is I could daydream and then pull myself back to the present to answer a question. And the thrill of that, the thrill of being oh look, we're back and we didn't get caught, was intoxicating. Number three, I was easily distracted by anything that was going on in the classroom that had nothing to do with what we were learning. If we had settled into class and then somebody pulled their notebook out or they needed to get a pencil, whether it was next to me or across the room, my attention was there. I literally would just lock in on that. Anything was more exciting than what was happening in the classroom, despite the fact that I was a really good student. Number four, one of the reasons that my diagnosis was missed was because I was a really good student. I was able to complete tasks on time. I didn't have any problems with avoidance or completing assignments. What I did have issues with was following complex things. So anything that had multi-step, especially when it came to math, I really struggled with. I remember being in fourth grade and my teacher yelling at me because she had just done an entire explanation of long division, and I was just elsewhere. I was so distracted. And I think it was just because I knew I didn't get the concept, so the entire time that she was speaking, I just kept feeling you don't get this, you don't get this, you don't get this. There was so much shame. And when I finally raised my hand to be hey, I actually don't understand this, she was did you not hear anything I just said? Did you really just zone out? And basically was I'm not gonna re-explain it to you. And that is such a common thing with ADHD, that sense of we don't get something, so the internal narrative is that there's a shame factor. It's how do we not understand this? And then in my case, if you ask for help and then you get that feedback that you've also messed that up, causes just a lot of emotional dysregulation. Number five, forming close friendships. So one of the things that I noticed is that because with ADHD, your brain just moves faster. You learn how to predict what other people are gonna say or do. In a classroom setting, it can work really well, especially with teachers, because you get into a rhythm of learning what assignments they're gonna do, how they talk, how they explain something. And in the times that you are not predicting correctly, it's fairly okay, especially if it's a low level thing in childhood classrooms. But when it comes to friendships, that law of predictability really doesn't work that well. Especially when it came to forming close connections, one of the things that I realized is that because I was using the essentially assumption, or I was trying to predict what the person would say, I was never really fully grounded in conversation, so I would miss a lot of things. I even notice it now in adulthood, not so much in session, but in my close friendships. I am so easily distracted by outside stimuli, whether there is a sound in the hall or somebody else is talking, or I just notice a human interaction that has nothing to do with me across the room. I lose track of what's happening in the present moment, and that can make other people feel I am not paying attention, because I'm not, and feel really dismissed. So when it came to forming friendships, I really always felt I was just off the mark. I really felt I was on the other side of, I felt I was in this group of I just could not get it right. I somehow had missed the memo on the ways to make friends. Number six, one of the main things that I still do to this day, which is not a great habit, but it's just ingrained in me, is when it comes to tasks that I know I'm really good at. So for me, I'm really good at writing research papers. I will leave it to the last minute down to the hour. In college, I used to write a 50-page research paper in under an hour and a half, because I would just sit down, zone in, write the entire paper, and be done with it. It's not a great thing, because what I'm basically doing is I am being avoidant enough that my adrenaline kicks in to the degree that I finally hyper focus on a task and push it out. Now, it doesn't always mean that my work was good, but in my case, what I was able to do was skate by. So I was able to be good enough that it wasn't recognizable that I was having these avoidant tendencies and not completing things in a manner that might be a little bit more tranquil for my nervous system. The final thing is that because ADHD and attentive type is often overlooked in women, it is I am just one of many where you have people pleasing type A personalities who are seeking validation, who are really good at school, where we overlook the anxious side of the ADHD presentation. So I was a very anxious kid. I was very fearful in school of like a teacher not liking me, or me getting an assignment wrong, or me not understanding something. There was always this like low buzz of anxiety that I tried to mitigate with predictive things. Something as simple as like the routine of, I remember being in first grade and I had created the routine of showing up at school and then asking to go to the bathroom before school started. And one day my teacher literally was like, you ask this every day. I don't understand why you ask this. And looking back, what I can see is like, it's not that I needed to go to the bathroom. It's that I had created a routine that helped me feel calmer in the earlier parts of my day, because I was stressed out about what happens if it was like first period or second period, and I'm sitting there and the teacher is in the middle of an explanation and then I have to raise my hand. Like, I was so fearful of the potential social anxiety that that would cause, or the potential that she would say no, that I had to create patterns of behavior that made me feel more grounded, safer, and calm. But nobody would ever say, hey, there's something going on with this kid. Mainly because I simply was just hitting all the marks in school to a degree that unless you were really paying attention, unless you were super zoned in, you wouldn't put all of these things together. And I think that's what makes ADHD and attentive really hard, especially in women, to diagnose, because it is high-performing individuals who are typically really good at school, who thrive with validation, who thrive with people-pleasing behaviors, who also then have to support all of those behaviors through creating practices that may or may not be healthy in the long run to cope with the anxiety that they're experiencing. If you guys have any questions about my experience with ADHD and attentive, or if you have any questions about like the actual diagnosis as a whole, shoot me a DM, leave me a comment.